Hello everyone, welcome back to NASCAR Heat Evolution. My name is Jeff Faviano, and in this video, we're going to go over car setup. So without further ado, let's jump in. Here we are in a qualify session, and you notice right off the bat, we've got left bumper and right bumper here that goes back and forth for the setup. And when we go to custom race, we have the garage option as well as custom qualify. We have the garage option. Let's just go into custom qualify since we're in a qualify session and go from there. We'll hit the garage button, the X button, or whatever you have it selected as your X button on your wheel. And you'll notice right off the bat, we have shock settings, weight settings, spring settings, tire settings, miscellaneous settings, and gear settings. This all looks a little bit too much when you first look at it, but when we break it down and simplify it, it gets a lot easier, I promise you. Okay, let's jump into shock settings here. We have left bump, left rebound, right bump, right rebound. So the main things you need to know are what bump and rebound are. Bump is going to make the car looser tight when you're going into the corner, whereas rebound will make the car looser tight when you're exiting the corner. So with the rule of thumb here, we can go with the higher bump on the left side here, and that's going to make the car looser on that left side. If we go down on the clicks, we're going to make it tighter, is what that pretty much goes by. Rebound, however, is the opposite. Like I said, we're exiting the corner, so a higher rebound will tighten the car, whereas lowering it is going to make it looser. So where we work on the left side of the car or the right side of the car, you can try to get it looser or tighter, and you have a lot of different variations there that you can do to try to get the car to turn the way you want it to. So at the rear of the car, the bump here, if we bring it down in clicks, that's going to make it softer. And what that will do is it's going to make the car tighter when you get back into the throttle. With rebound, when we're messing with the rebound here, if we make that softer, that's going to tighten the car during braking. Now with both of these, if we start to bring them up to higher settings, that's going to make quicker reactions to the car getting tighter under throttle or getting tighter under braking. Here we are, the weight settings. If we go in here, we have left weight, front weight, wedge, front ride height, and rear ride height. So left weight first, if we add more, and this is at max, 54.2%. So say we had this down here at 53.8. If we wanted to loosen the chassis up, we would go to the right. So keep in mind, if we go left, it's going to start tightening it up as well. The front weight will help the car turn better. However, you'll get a mid-corner push that happens, and the car starts to tighten when you're under braking. So keep that in mind when you're messing with the weight settings there. Let's move along to wedge. And wedge here is currently at 50%. And this is perfect for if you were on a road course. This is where you would want it to be, so it's nice and equal. The thing here with wedge you need to remember is when you go less on the wedge, you're loosening the car, whereas when you're adding wedge, you're going to tighten that sucker up. And finally, we have ride height. We have a front ride height and a rear ride height. In the front, what happens is when you lower this thing, it's going to shift the weight to the front of the car. It's going to improve the tire grip there, but it's also going to make the car looser. By making this higher, by going the opposite way, it's going to shift the weight to the rear, and it'll improve the grip at the end of the car in the back, making the car tighter. With rear ride height, being 4 right here is the lowest we can go, but if we were up here at like 4.375 and we wanted to go down, what that would do is shift the weight to the rear, improving front tire grip and making the car tighter. By bringing up the rear ride height, that's going to shift the weight to the front of the car, improving grip to that end, and that's going to make the car looser. Next, we have the spring settings. If we go in here, you'll notice we have a front and a rear. We have a left spring and a right spring in the front, and a left spring and a right spring in the rear. So how springs work is when you lower these, you're going to make the car looser, whereas whenever you make them higher, you're going to make it a tighter car. The best way to explain this is when you're setting your springs up, you want a softer front to loosen the car, whereas you want a softer rear to tighten the car. So if we made the rear a lot softer, it would cause the car to be tight, whereas it would be the opposite in the front. Okay, on to tire settings. And when we join the tire settings here, you're going to notice that we have PSI values that we can change. So with tires, remember that when you lower your PSI value, you're going to make higher temperatures in that tire, but you will also have greater grip. However, if you bring up those pressures, you're going to get more top speed, you'll get less grip, and you'll get less temperature. So it's a balancing act between the two. So basic things we can do with tires is if we wanted to tighten the car into the corner and off the corner, we would raise the left front pressure. If we wanted the car to be looser off, we would lower the left front pressure. If we want to make this car loose off but tight there in the middle of the corner, we would raise the left rear pressure up. However, lowering the left rear pressure, we would make a looser start, but the car would start to tighten up in a longer run. By raising the right front pressure, we would cause the car to be loose off. However, if we lower the right front pressure, we would tighten the car. Raising the right rear pressure would cause the car to be more tight into the corner, but it would also be looser off. And finally, lowering that right rear would make the car looser on short runs. So as you can see, tire settings are all about just being balanced in the long run. Moving on to the miscellaneous settings, we have left front camber, right front camber, front sway bar, rear sway bar, track bar adjustments, brake bias, grill tape, wheel lock, and steering offset. So here in the beginning, we have camber that we can adjust, and you can see the car is set up right now to turn left. We have a 1.5 degree on the left front, and the right front we have a negative 2.5. So with the setup it is right now, that helps the car turn left. Remember, if we add too much camber, we'll have less grip and the tires will start to wear a lot quicker. If you want to set camber up for a road course, you would want them to be a negative equal setting. Next, we have the sway bars. We have a front sway bar and a rear sway bar. The thing we need to know about a sway bar is by stiffening the front sway bar or increasing the diameter will cause the car to get more tight. However, if we lower it, it's going to make it looser. Keep in mind when you're messing with the sway bars, too stiff of a sway bar can actually lift the wheel off the track, and that's not a good thing. And we move on to the track bar. The track bar is located in the rear of the car. The best way to explain this is to remember when we raise the track bar, we're going to make the car looser. However, it'll be tighter under braking. If we lower the track bar, we're going to make the car tighter and it will be looser under braking. With brake bias, all we need to do is adjust it to the front if we want to tighten the car under braking, and the opposite if we want to make it looser under braking. With grill tape, it's all about downforce. When you add grill tape, you're adding more downforce on the car, and that also will loosen the car. If you're in a qualifying setup, you would normally want to run this sucker at about 100%. And keep in mind when you're out there on the track and you're doing a elimination style qualify of a round, you need to come in and let the car get cooled off and then go back out there again. You can't just keep running those laps because you'll blow the engine. Wheel lock, by adjusting the wheel lock, pretty much is the sensitivity you will feel in the wheel. So if the car is a little too squirrely on a super speedway, you could drop the wheel lock down a little bit and the car will be a little bit easier to control and a lot stiffer. And finally, we have the steering offset. And the steering offset is pretty much, you'll notice if you're going down the back stretch of, say, Charlotte, and the wheel is pretty much wanting to turn left and you have to hold it to the right, that's because of the steering offset. So if you had that at the center point, it would have the wheel pretty much in the center. It's just pretty much up to driver comfort there. And finally, we have gear settings. So with the gear settings, you'll notice we have different ratios here, 3, 2, 1.4, and 1. So how it works is a lower ratio will give us less RPM, but more top speed. Whereas if we have a higher ratio, we'll have more RPM and more acceleration. If you find yourself out on a super speedway and you think that the RPMs are a little too low when you're in 4th gear, you could probably bring this up to make it a little shorter, and then you'll have more RPM, because remember, lower of a number, you're going to have less RPM. Well, that's the basics to setting up your car in NASCAR Heat Evolution. Remember, it's all about practice and fiddling with things here and there, and you're always learning as you go along to make the car what you want to, because just because another driver likes a car that's loose on a certain track, maybe you want it tighter, maybe you like it a different way. And with all these different options, you have all the tools to make that happen. All right, well, hopefully now you have a better understanding of how you can set your car up to drive the way that you want it to out there. And once again, my name is Jeff Aviano, and good luck out there on the track.